Hi, my name is Richard Fortus from Guns N' Roses, and I'm really excited to introduce my new signature Falcons. I was always attracted to rock and roll, though I started out classically, playing violin, and also I was playing drums. But I was always, I mean, I just thought guitars were the sexiest things. I was just intimidated by them because of the length of the neck, and it's polyphonic, whereas violins are mostly, primarily monophonic with a little tiny neck. It was much more. I had my hands full with that, so I was intimidated by guitars for a long time. And I was fortunate enough to have friends that were actually really great players that inspired me not only to get into the guitar and start playing it, but to get good quickly. And I became, you get obsessed, you get bitten, and it just it absorbs you, and you just. That's all you want to do. And when I was about 12 years old, that's what happened. When I was a kid, I remember seeing the cover of a Chet Atkins album, and he's playing a 6119 on the cover. And it's that bright reddish orange color and the single pickup. And yeah. So, I mean, I think that probably helped shape my aesthetic sensibilities about guitar, And then later, Billy Duffy from The Cult was a big influence. Matt from Bow Wow Wow and Adam and the Ants, also a great player and White Falcon user. Stephen Stills, Neil Young. And then seeing Steve Marriott with the Small Faces playing a White Falcon, which looked, it looked huge on him. It's just massive because he was so little. But it was striking visually. And then later, Malcolm Young as well. The early videos, he was playing a Falcon. Gretsch is, in many ways, is the tone of rock and roll for me. From classic Duane Eddy, Cliff Gallup to Malcolm Young, it really sort of encapsulates rock and roll. Gretsch works really well for me in the band situation because it really sits around Slash's tone and complements his sound, which is, more of a vocal type of driven sound. Not only is it differentiated, but it's also complementary. It really sort of fills it out. And when I tried my Gretches with him, that's when things really seemed to work well. Historically, with rock bands, like AC/DC is a perfect example. The juxtaposition between Angus's sound and Malcolm's sound really complement each other. And going through the experiment of trial and error with my band, I see how they happened upon that. Because really, Gretsch's complement a more driven tone. Because when you're playing chords, the definition between notes is really great, and it sounds huge. And that's what I love about it. It really, a lot of low end, top end, there's a lot of sparkle to it and chime, and it really does stand out and is very aggressive. So construction-wise, it's a maple body, spruce center block, maple neck with an ebony fingerboard. It's a U-shape, medium jumbo frets, tusk nut, and the white one has the roller bridge, the Tone Pros, which helps keep it in tune considerably. It's a spruce center block, and it's chambered. The issue that often comes up with bigger guitars is that you have feedback issues, and this gets rid of all of that. A lot of people have asked me why I decided to go with a double cut, but I wanted something that I can play all night, that I can solo on as well. And as much as aesthetically I love the classic single cut Falcon, man, it's more practical for me to have a double cut that I can access to the higher frets. For some reason, I'm just used to a 17-inch body, the full, and I think they look great. And so that was important to me, to keep that same size. And it's what feels comfortable to me. So on the white one, it's a 25.5-inch scale, which is the classic Gretsch Falcon scale. And the black one is obviously the 24.6, which is easier to bend strings on. It's easier to play. You know, it's a faster guitar. Having the Bigsby with the longer scale works better. It's a big part of what I do with the band, just that simple modulation with the Bigsby. So what we ended up doing was changing the neck angle to accommodate the B6. So you don't have the down bar. It's much more responsive. So it's a very subtle motion, and you really have to move a B6 to get it to respond like and it's a string through, which makes things much easier on my tech. So another interesting feature, it's a small thing, but for me is very cool. The fact that the Grover strap lock system is not on the back of the guitar, but on this horn. Functionally, it makes it easier to get all the way up the neck. You know, that's really the main thing. And the way it hangs, I think it hangs more naturally from this bout than from the back, where it naturally would tilt forward a bit. What was important to me sonically was, with the pickups, is to retain the chime and low-end thump and the definition of a vintage Filtertron. You know, the Filtertron to me is the sound of rock and roll in a lot of ways. And I wanted to retain that with having a center block, which definitely changes the character of the tone of the guitar overall. We really had to experiment with that. But also I wanted a bit more mid-range for soloing. And so what we ended up with was something that's never been done before. It's a hybrid between a vintage PAF and a classic Filtertron sound. And what we've come up with, in my opinion, is what really sets this guitar apart from anything else that's out there. And Gretsch was incredibly patient with me and equally as tenacious in finding that tone for me. The middle position I'll use for a lot live. I'll just drop my volume down, and which is another big thing about this guitar that we spent a lot of time on, was experimenting with different values for the treble bleed capacitor, because that's my clean sound. That's my clean tone is just rolling the volume down, which you drop it down and you get that classic Gretsch chiminess, you know. So that's both pickups together. And then in the neck, we've got... you know? And then bridge is, and bringing the volume control up, you know? So that's all just within that, the volume. I mean, there's so many different tones. Hearing it dry. You know, it's classic definition with a Filtertron. And then when you're wide open, you know, it's more, it's got, that's when you start to hear more of the PAF character come out. And it really, construction-wise, is very much a hybrid of both pickups. To my knowledge, you know, there's nothing like it. So the master volume is really important to me. First of all, I love where it's positioned on Gretches. I love it being on the bottom horn because I'm constantly going for it. I'm constantly reaching for it. And having just the master volume, one volume for both pickups, is really important to me because, as I said, I'm constantly adjusting it and going to different levels of gain all here. So if I'm on the middle position or the neck position, it's all right, easily accessible. I don't have to balance between the two pickups, and it's just one volume, and I can go from a clean sound to a blazing full-on sound just with that one knob. And you don't lose so many guitars, you drop the volume and it gets dark and muddy. This is the exact opposite. And that's due to the capacitor. But it works so well because you go from a really chimey sound, you know, and as you bring it up, it actually is the inverse where it gets warmer, you know, and you hear more of that mid-range, the more of the PAF character. So yeah, there's a lot of tone just within that one volume knob. Not having the pickup selector up here, for me, is essential on any guitar that I ever played, because when you have your guitar low, you tend to hit that, and I've damaged my thumb quite a bit. It's a no-load tone pot, and in my opinion, the fewer things in line, the better. So the more direct the signal, you know, straight to the tone, the volume, that's it. It keeps the signal pure and lets the character of the pickups really come through. So when I'm going to be doing something a bit more technically challenging, soloing wise, I'll reach for this. So this is a 24.6-inch scale. It's easier to bend strings. It's easier to play. It's faster. So it's more of a shred guitar, you know, in a Gretsch type of way. So classic black with the tortoise binding. And I think it looks incredibly classy. And also the bindings on the F holes, you know, and then accented with the white. And then it would be a little too subtle for the logo, so we went with the white for the logo. The medium jumbo frets make it easier to bend, and they're not too high, and they're not too low, and they really are the perfect fret. We went with the classic Gretsch thumbnail markers, and I love the subtlety of that. The Grover Rotomatics work great. They're, you know, people have asked me why I didn't go with the locking tuners, but for me, these work, they work fine. And I use heavier strings on the low end, and these accommodate those better. So it's got that classic Gretsch, you know, type of, in the lower volume, you know, when I've got my volume down a bit. And then, you know, as you bring up the volume, you know, really, it's all about the pickups. I think that's what really sets this apart from any other guitar that's on the market. And, you know, aesthetically, I've always been so attracted to Gretsch guitars. I mean, they've all, you know, they're stunning visually. I mean, that's what I love about the Falcon. You know, it's always been so iconic. It's built to be a rock and roll machine. But yeah, for country, it's got a great twang to it. I mean, it's classic Gretsch. I mean, rockabilly stuff. It's such a versatile guitar. Having a signature Gretsch is, I mean, that's, I'm still, I still can't believe it. I mean, it's such an honor and such a lifelong dream, you know? I grew up in the musical instrument wholesale business, and my father was one of the owners of a company that made instruments. So I grew up going to NAMM shows, and it always, you know, with Gretsch, it was always this pinnacle of quality that, you know, I aspired to someday own a Gretsch, let alone, you know, having my name on one.